So good morning or good afternoon, depending of your country. Welcome to this 5th edition of the Meet and Learn series of the Sure Euro Delta. I'm Alfredo Corbalan, and I'm representing Brussels Capital Region in the Sure Euro Delta network. And I'm coordinating the international affairs in the Brussels Spatial Planning Agency called Perspective Brussels. Today I'm moderating, and I was supposed to co-moderating this session with, yes, good. You just arrived on time, Pietro. I'm co-moderating this session with my colleague Pietro Fragapane. Because we will present you, our colleague from Amsterdam proposes to moderate this session, because we will present you a project from stakeholders located in Brussels. So I give you the floor, Pietro, to present yourself.
Mm-hmm. Hello everyone, sorry for the short delay. I'm Pietro Fragapane, and so I'm working for Brussels Environment, which is the Environment and Energy Agency of the Brussels Capital Region. And I am responsible for the coordination of the economic transition strategy of the Brussels area, which is called Shifting Economy. And as per se, this transition also include building material reuse and reuse economy. And today with Alfredo, I will be facilitating this webinar session.
Thank you, Pietro. So before giving the floor to Mr. Gaspard Geerts, just some words about Eurodelta and Sure Eurodelta for the participant who are not, who doesn't know who we are. Maybe Syed as well.
Yeah, just one quick thing I wanted to say was this meeting is recorded, so anybody who's not interested or does not want to be recorded in terms of camera, so you can just turn off your camera, otherwise we're good to go, yeah?
Yeah, thank you, Syed, for... So some words before starting about Eurodelta and the Sure network. For those who are not doesn't know very well who we are. So Eurodelta first, the territory, it's a macro region of the highly urbanized part of the Northwest Europe. It's about 40 million inhabitants, which are located in the 4 countries, the north of France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and the western parts of Germany. It's the area located within the delta of the Rhine, Scheldt, and Meuse rivers. So this, some years ago, an informal cooperation network called Sure Eurodelta was created within the network called Matrix. And it's an informal network that's where cities, region, provinces of this macro region meet under the secretariat of the secretary of the network is Amsterdam, under the leadership of Dagmar Keim, would I say warm greetings today, that she couldn't join us for reasons. What we do this kind of event of exchange of information like this webinar. We are done also some European projects, one projects on sustainable mobility. We also have a project proposal that's also on Interreg Northwest Europe, which is right now under evaluation. And we also organize events with students and university, which is called the Next Generation Podium. So a lot of different events and activity that we can find on our website that we have created. So, but today we have invited a Belgian actor to present a project, and we leave Pietro to introduce him shortly.
Yes, so I will introduce Gaspard Geerts, who will give the presentation. So Gaspard is a 31 years old architect working for as a project manager for ROTOR DC, and he's been working since 2018. So he was in charge of the Interreg Northwest Europe project that he will present today, and at ROTOR is involved in various projects in research, design, and also for exhibitions. And what he likes in ROTOR DC is the possibility to combine theoretical principles, experiments, and practical hands-on projects. So 2 words also about ROTOR DC, and Gaspard will correct me if I say wrong information, if I provide you with wrong information. So ROTOR DC standing for Deconstruction and Consulting, has been created in 2016 as a spin-off of an organization called ROTOR, and so it's a cooperative company entirely owned by its employees, which is good to know, I think. And they focus on the reuse of building materials. And for years, they've been developing innovative ways to salvage building elements, so dismantling technique, repairing techniques. And now ROTOR DC has become a major player in the Brussels area as building material reuse. So in the building material reuse economy, sorry. And this is it. So I give the floor to Gaspard for the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Pietro, for the presentation. So I will start to share my screen. Check. Is it working? Do you see the first slide?
Yes,
I
we see,
see.
but not in the presentation mode.
Yes. Is it better like that?
Yes, better.
Okay, so today I'm going to talk about one specific project, which is the Interreg Northwest Europe FCRBE. So FCRBE stands for Facilitating the Circulation of Reused Building Elements. And so it's a project that we did together with different partners that I will present since 5 years. And then I will like to show you like the main results of the projects today. And so maybe just again to detail a bit about ROTOR. So as Pietro said, we are 2 organizations. One is a non-profit, which is called ROTOR, without the DC, and then ROTOR DC, which is the cooperative company, exactly as you said. There was no mistake. The only mistake is that personally, I work for the non-profit organization, and it's the non-profit organization who took part in this FCRBE project. So quickly a bit what we do in the non-profit is assisting building owners or architects to implement reuse strategies in their projects. We also do a bit of design, mainly interior design. And then we curate exhibition. We teach in different universities and schools in Europe. And then we do a bit of research as this project FCRBE. And then ROTOR DC is really mainly a shop where you can buy second-hand building elements that we salvage ourselves or demolition contractors salvage, and then we clean them, we restore them, we stock them, and then we sell them in our shop. So few information about FCRBE project. So The main objective was to increase the quantity of materials recovered in the region by 150% by 2032. The budget was 6.8 million euro. And it was this kind of project where 60% is EU fundings and the rest you have to find co-financing by regional or own funds money. So we had like two phases in the project. One, the first was 3 years and then 2 years of capitalization. Mainly the different partners stayed the same, but there was a bit of change between the two periods. So quickly to present the different actors, there was Brussels Environment, who Pietro just introduced. The CSTB is like the scientific and technical construction center of in France, and you have the equivalent in Belgium that is Buildwise. Then Bellastock is an association a bit similar to ROTOR, but in France. We had also MBuild, which is a federation of Belgian contractors, and the University of Brighton. These are the 7 that stay the same. Then in the initial phase, we had Salvo Web, which is a really old organization in UK that is mainly mapping the different reuse dealers in the UK. And then in the second phase, we had the chance to include TU Delft, so the University of Delft, the LIST, which is also a kind of scientific and technical center in Luxembourg, and then the city of Utrecht. So the main result of the project, this is a poster that we produced, that Bellastock produced for like explaining in a final report all the things we did in the project. So it's just a kind of montage of the FCRBE office with different elements that give insight in the different deliverables and documents we produce. So there was a lot of document produced during these 5 years. I will not talk about all of them. I will just present the main ones, but this gives you kind of an overview of the different things we did. And this is a picture of all the deliverables printed in our last steering committee meeting that was 2 weeks ago. So there's kind of a lot of documentation produced. So first one I will introduce is this method for reclamation audits. So it's the idea that too often there are building elements that are not reclaimed when we demolish or transform a building. And one of the reasons is that we don't make inventory audits of the element that have a potential for reuse. So it's really a method to learn how to do this kind of audit, or to take good pictures, or to what materials do you take in account, how do you value the potential for reuse of an element. And so it's addressed to any kind of organization that will carry this type of inventory. It could be the building owner, the architect, a demolition contractor, or a kind of a bureau d'études like we are. Then second deliverables, it's a bit like the other face of the coin, is that too often there are no in the new project or in the renovation, we don't use elements that had already a first life. We don't really reuse materials. So here it's specifically addressed to project owners that want to introduce reuse elements in their project, and that present 5 ways of doing it. Also a bit depending on the kind of contract or of procurement that your project needs. And so it's really how do you express an objective in the different document of a public tender, How do you do that for the contractor, or also for the architect that you hire? So it's really focused on the project commissioner. And then we have the reuse rate method and analysis. So this is a bit like a complement to the document I just present. And so it's a specific case of if you want in your project to set a quantitative objective for reuse. So for example, at the beginning of the project, you will say, I want that 10% of the materials that are going to be introduced in the new project come from reuse origin. And so it's all a discussion of how do you count that? What's the unit do you use? Do you use the mass or the volume of the economical volume, etc., etc., and also to have kind of clear definition of what you count. You don't count the things that stay in the building the same way as you count material flow that come in the building or that come out of the building. So it set a kind of definition to be able to compare different projects the same way. And for that, we also did an analysis of 32 projects that already introduce reuse elements, and we a posteriori counted the different quantities according to our methodology. And so we can say in this project, there has been 3% of reuse in that layer. So we did this method with dividing the building in different layers of construction. So for example, the structure and then the skin, which is the part that protects the building, etc. And then we produced 32 detailed project sheets to present a bit more the results of this analysis. So it's kind of a complement, but it's also because it's something that more and more we hear that people are willing to be able to set a quantitative objective in reuse. Then we had 4 live tests. So it's also, we always try to kind of not be too theoretical and to test what we say in the methods to make them in application in some real project. So there were 4 live tests who tried to formulate these quantitative targets. And so there is a report who explain a bit what works, what didn't work. Then this is a really interesting one. We produced 36 material sheets. So it's really precise and more targeted to specifier, to architects that wants to, for example, describe a reuse element in the tenders, in their specification. So what do you have to take in account? What are the differences with new materials? And it's at the same time, how do you reclaim these elements if you have an existing building, or how do you specify in a new project? So this is a bit condensed knowledge of 15 years of working with reuse elements. So we are kind of really happy with this outcome. Then we had a specific guide towards the contractors and also towards different type of contractors. So general contractors, but also finishing companies, woodworkers, roofers, demolition companies, and also infrastructure companies. So here it was really targeted to these actors and to say to them, okay, today the sector of construction is a bit changing. More and more you will be asked to work with reuse elements, or you do that, or what are the changes for your practice, and it's really targeted to specific contractors. Then of course there are always this question of the insurance related to reuse, and so how can you, or the insurance will react if you work with reuse elements. And so here are 11 case studies that dealt differently with this question. And it's a kind of a best practice synthesis of these 11 cases studies. And so this is intended also for a bit control office, insurers, but also contracting authorities in general, architects and construction companies, a bit all of the actors of the construction sector. Then, as I said, we tested here in 36 pilot operation the different methods that we were writing. So at the same time we were writing the methods, for example, the procurement method, we were testing what we were saying in this method. And so this is a report of this 36 pilot operation. And again, you learn a lot from what we tested, and sometimes something that we thought it was a good way to do it in real didn't really work. So we also adapted again our guides with these feedbacks from the field. And then this is maybe a third part that it's really important for us is the existence of dealers that already sell reuse elements. So ROTOR DC is one of them, but it's kind of really recent. But in fact, there are a lot of resellers in Europe that are dealing sometimes since a few generations with this kind of material. Most of the time they don't call themselves circular, or they don't say that they are dealing with reuse elements. They will say old materials or second-hand materials, but in fact they are already doing circular economy, but they don't have a lot of visibility. And most of the time the construction sector don't know them well. So here the idea is really to make the connection between these two words and to give more visibility to these actors. So there are two online directories. One is called Opalis, and that covers Belgium, France, Luxembourg, Netherlands. And then Salvo, which covers UK. So really, if you don't know that there are so many dealers, don't hesitate to visit these websites to give you an idea of the existing actor already there. Then we also developed this Truly Reclaim label, which is a kind of labeling system that allows you to attest that one element was truly reclaimed and that is not a falsely altered material and so on. So this is really addressed to these reuse dealers that could adopt this label in their business. And also, as I said, these were some of the deliverables, the principle, but there were a lot of others. So we had, for example, a small mobile exhibition is the picture on the right that traveled a bit all over Europe, and that was presenting different reuse elements and a bit the work of FCRBE, but in a really practical and also tactile way. So you could see these materials and realize that they are good materials and so in good shape. And then there was a roadmap to foster reuse practice, especially addressed to public authorities, different booklets on different topic of reuse, and then a symposium, and then a lot of workshops with different stakeholders. So where can you find these documents? You could just scan this QR code, but if not, you could go to the address that is below, which is the website of the FCRBE, and if in the website you go to the part that it's called outcomes, and there you can download all these documents that I just presented. Yeah, that was it for me for the moment.
Thank you, Gaspard. It's very interesting presentation that gives a very big overview of the project, which was a very interesting project for circular economy. What we're going to do now is we're going to take some questions. So I'll be responsible for taking your question in live. So and trying to share the word and give you the floor. And Alfredo will take also some questions in the chat. So you have two possibilities to ask questions. So do not hesitate. Just raise your hand, and I'll see you, and or get into it, and then we can get your question and share it with the rest of the audience.
We have a first question on the chat from Emma. How will ROTOR continue the activity after the Interreg project?
Yeah, that's a good question. But so, like the research project of the FCRBE, it's one part of our work. But let's say that we have also different part of the work where we are directly commissioned by architects or clients to assist them. And so this will just continue as we are doing now. But also we introduce a new Interreg project. So we will have the answer, I think, end of the month of November. And the project is called Pre-Use. And it's specifically here dedicated to the question of the reuse platform. So more and more cities or municipalities are willing to have their own reuse platform, or sometimes also region. And we will kind of dig in that specific subject, starting by studying what already exists, what are the different models of platform that exist, and then try to extrapolate and to think about what could be different model of this platform. So, for example, you have most of the time in cities, we have one little platform for roadworks elements, and then where there are works in the street, they reclaim, for example, pavers, and then they reuse them. This is something that kind of works well, and it's like from public to public, but we will also study different options, elements that come from private building going to the public, and the other way around. And so we will work also directly with partners that are cities. So we have different cities that want to implement that in their cities, and we will also assist them in this work to implement their own platform. So this is the next step for us. We really hope that it will be accepted, but we will have the answer pretty soon.
Okay, there are now several questions. The second one, thank you, Gaspard. About the links between the result of your project and the EU regulation, and are the results of your project being implemented or included in the new regulation at the European level?
As far I can say or I can know, there is not direct laws or regulation that is implemented. I know that there is that is in discussion, but it was not adopted. A question of fixing a reuse rate for some projects to have a reduction on fiscality, and that's something we discuss in the project, in the document we did about the reuse rate. So what they proposed was 15% of reuse. We found that it was really high. So maybe it's still in discussion for us. It was a bit too ambitious to put that that rate. But so at the European level, I can't really say, but I know that, for example, in the Flemish region, you have the GROW document that was also inspired by the output of FCRBE. So I think there are kind of inspiration that's come into public authorities and regulation, but there are no direct, and also in the project we suggest something that could be done, but for the moment it's still more kind of incitative way. I think also at the scale of Brussels, for the moment there are no regulation that said you should have 10% of reuse in your project. For the moment it's more kind of incitative, but there is a vision that at a certain point it will be an obligation.
Okay, thank you. Maybe before.
Yes, maybe we move to Hussein, and then we go back to the chat. Hussein, do you have a question?
Yes, my question was during the project you mentioned that you create an inventory of the materials that are extracted, and what I want to ask is how do you connect this inventory with the people who might need these materials? Like how you meet the supply and the demand?
Mm-hmm. So it's always kind of specific project by project. So for example, when ROTOR does an inventory for a client, so we go into a building, we make the audit of what are the reusable elements. There are kind of different options regarding the type of mission we have. Sometimes we just give this reclamation audit to the client, and he is responsible to try to contact actor or stakeholders that would be interested by these materials. And of course, we give them some ideas of what actor he can contact. And for example, Opalis, so this online directory is really one of the main outcome for that. But if we have kind of a mission where it's also our job to try to make this link, then we will really use the Opalis network and call directly different dealers and send them the reclamation audit and ask them, are you interested by any of these lots? And if yes, in which condition? So according to the different dealers, some could, for example, do the dismantling themselves. Others don't. Others will just ask that the material are properly dismantled and already stored in pallets, for example, that they just have to pick it up. So it can be done by us, but this work could also be done by other actors. And also that's something that we explain in that document is what do you do after you did this reclamation audit. And of course, it's really important question is sometimes we do all this work and the link is not done, but there's a way to do it, but it's still some work. There is not like a direct connection.
Just to add to the question, like I was also wondering how and where are the materials stored if the building is already, for example, dismantled? Like, are you creating some circular material hubs, or where is that between the process after the extraction and before it is used?
Mm-hmm.
Where are these materials stored? Like, what are the avenues for that?
Yeah, it's also a very good question, because sometimes people have the impression that you could make a direct link between one site of demolition to a new site of construction. sometimes it can happen, but it's really difficult because the timing of the two projects really should be aligned perfectly. And most of the time you need a kind of buffer between these two situations. And that's something that these dealers, it's also why we insist a lot on the existence of these dealers, is that these dealers can make this buffer. They have a stock, and they can also make operation on the elements, because most of the time the elements that you dismantle sometimes need a cleaning or a sorting, and that's something they can deal. So the added value is really there. It's also they have a lot of knowledge on the different elements. But of course, there are also other options. And for example, this question of the platform and the municipality that wants to have their own platform, that could be also one of these places where the material pass between a state of demolition site to a new building site. So you need this buffer, and it can take different forms. And one of the easiest ways to work with these dealers.
Okay, thank you. There are other questions. So there was another question which was related to regulation, which is maybe for both for you, Gaspard, but also for Pietro maybe, is as the Brussels region rules on procurement regarding circular material.
Yes, there is also Charline that I see in the chat that work also on the project from the side of Bruxelles Environnement. But I can kind of already answer the question before, and maybe you can complement. I think that for the moment it's kind of an incitative way. So it's mainly public authorities that are we try to motivate them to implement a circular strategy in their project. But then there is a kind of a roadmap that say that at a certain year, I don't remember the exact timeline, but by 2030 it will be mandatory in public building, and then in 2040 it will be mandatory for every building, something like that. I don't know the precise date. Correct me if I'm wrong, Charline or Pietro.
I don't know the dates either, but yeah, I confirm the incitative way, and for later the regulation will arrive in Brussels.
Yeah, and the public sector is playing a kind of exemplarity role. So we're trying to implement that for administration or the buildings from communes from the cities, and in the market and in the tender, we put in place some this incitative targets, but they're already in some project that we are doing in the city. They, for instance, they have to produce some urban furniture with the material which has been dismantled from a building, for instance. So, and this is something that is put in place already in Brussels.
And also maybe to complement, like the work we did on the reuse rate, so fixing an objective that is quantitative is also a bit in proper preparation for the time where it will be a regulation, and there is a lot of change that this regulation will be expressed in this kind of ways, and it's also a way for us to say, okay, at some point we will need this kind of things, and to have the right tools to do that, and that it's not becoming just a question of numbers that don't really have a direct sense in the real construction world. So we kind of anticipate a bit the moment where we'll have to express this in numbers.
Okay, thank you. And another question to make a link, which has been also said right now about public furniture. There is a question from Ludovica Medori. Was the research also be done for public space projects done in municipalities? I guess it's referred to the 4 pilot project that you mentioned of live test.
Yeah. The live tests were not about public spaces, but in the 32 projects that we analyzed, there were a selection of, I think, 5 or 6 public spaces, and so it was project that did introduce reuse element in the project, and in fact it was a kind of project that reached a high reuse rates. Also because one of the choice we did in the project is to count, to take the mass, so the weight as the unit. And so a lot of time these spaces, if you use cobblestones or pavers or blue limestone slabs, you directly have a high weight, and so they kind of reach really good results. And also there are a lot of dealers specialized in this kind of materials. It's kind of not common, but regarding to other applications, I don't know, for insulation or windows in buildings, which is really kind of complicated. Introducing reuse street pavers element, it's kind of easy. You have the resellers. There are also already a lot of examples, so it kind of works well.
Thank you. Another question, which I will also link with the question I had myself for you. So from Frank Bakers, what is the scale of the circular chain? So of origin, demolition, storage, deconstruction, described in this project. Are there scale local, regional, national, macro-regional, international? That's his question. And my question was also related, maybe it's, do you see a specificity of in this sector of the Northwest Europe? Because I saw in the map you show that, for instance, the density of dealers is very high in the Belgium, Netherlands compared to France. So do you see a specificity also at the macro regional level of Northwest Europe?
Yes. So maybe to answer the more global question, in fact, there are scale in a bit from really local to international. If you look to the dealers that are present in Opalis, some are like sending their materials at the other face of the planet because they are really, I don't know, like tiles from Holland, really specific, really old, and you will have people in the US that will order these things for their houses, and then you have really local local actors. If you look at ROTOR DC, I think that the scale of their operation is like the maximum we will work. It's like Paris. So sometimes we recover elements that come from the region of Paris, and we sell it in the shop. And sometimes also people from this kind of area will order things from us. And generally, yeah, sometimes we have clients that are preoccupied by this question, and that they want reuse elements, but that also are very local. And we understand that, but sometimes it's difficult to do these two things. And also there are different studies that show that reclaim reused materials can travel kind of far before that the benefits from the fact that it's a reuse in terms of environmental impact is not surpassed that the transport cost does. So it depends really on the type of material, but the material that have a huge impact in the production, for example, a steel beam, it can travel several thousand of kilometers before that the benefits of the reuse is outpassed by the impact of transport. So it's always specific from material to material, but it's okay. Generally, it's okay that an element travels a few hundred kilometers from a place to another, and this is also we need to take in consideration that new material also travel a lot, and sometimes we don't really do the comparison when we use new materials, but new materials travel a lot and sometimes more than we use once. And then in the specificity of the delta region, it's difficult to say because it's the region where we are working. So one of the reasons why, for example, Belgium and Netherlands is so dense in the map is also because Opalis started. We started like 100 kilometers around Brussels, and then we kind of going more abroad. And so, for example, France, it's really during the FCA project that we start to cover it. And so like the lack of density is maybe just explained, but we spend less time to do that. But still, I think there is in Belgium and Netherlands a kind of density, historical reason why there is a lot of these dealers. That's true. And also UK, it's kind of really dense also. So it was not appearing in the map because it was covered by Salvo. But if you look at Salvo, it's really dense also.
I mute myself. Thank you very much. There is another question also related to how do you think we can transfer the idea of circular material flow in Euro-Delta cross-border? That's also related to, do you think this level is appropriate? Or did you see also some constraints because we are speaking about an area where there are 4 countries with borders?
Yeah, I think in a way it's already a bit the case. I mean, for example, we had a project in Strasbourg, so in France, and we helped the building owner to specify that some floor tiles had to be carefully dismantled because we knew that there was interest from dealers for that kind of elements. So this was one of the pilot operations we did in FCRBE. And then we contacted different dealers, and at the end, it's the dealers from Holland that came. So he sent it a big truck to take these tiles, and I think it was like 400 kilometers. And still for him it was okay. It was still possible for him to pay the transport and then to sell these elements and still have a margin. So I think it's a good example that shows that this kind of distances, it's okay. And also it was not really a problem of language. In fact, one of the person working at these dealers spoke French, but also they spoke in English, and it was a really kind of easy transaction. There was no problem of borders or so on, and so everybody was happy at the end. The client was a bit surprised that someone from so far, according to him, was interested in this, and maybe he had wanted that local dealers took them, but still we explain it also, this question of the transport, and still environmentally speaking, it was interesting.
Thank you. Question from Syed. Are there also policies or regulation that restrict the reuse of material, for instance, for health purpose, like there are presence of chemicals in some materials, or just also for safety?
Yes, of course, there are this kind of regulation, and in a way, I think that generally it's good regulation, and it's not because we are dealing with reuse element that we should not pay attention to health regulation and this kind of stuff. So, for example, when we do a reclamation audit, one of the first disclaimer we say is that first you need an asbestos or a dangerous substance audit, and that our reclamation audit is not surpassing this audit. So this is really important to stick to these rules. Of course, there are sometimes performances regulation. For example, the regulation on fire doors just changed, I think, a few months ago, and this makes that a lot of fire doors that maybe were kind of recent are not able anymore to be reused. And before that, it was possible if you still have the documentation that were coming from the elements. So sometimes in kind of recent project, we found back the technical papers that goes with the element, and then you can reprove that a fire door is still fireproof. Now, in the kind of update of this regulation, sometimes that makes a reuse not possible again. So I think most of the time is good reason. And sometimes, yeah, it could be discussed. And generally, there are ways of proving the performances of reuse element that are a bit different from the ways that you use for new material. And then finally, I think it's not a regulation stuff, but a lot of the time architects use specification, and sometimes they just copy paste from a project to another, like the general things. And sometimes in specification you could have something like all the material must be new. So of course, if you have that on your specification, it goes against the use of reuse elements. And so, yeah, generally, if you want to use these elements, you have to tailor-made your specification. You can't just copy-paste a description of a new brick if you want a reclaimed brick. There are little change that you need to implement.
Thank you, Gaspard. There are no more questions on the chat.
Maybe I have a question just to wrap up. On the project, there was it comes from you started a project saying that the use rate of dismantled material was very low, and then you put a target, which is a very interesting target. Now, from your experience on that, according to you, what should be done first, or in a more intensive way to promote secondary raw materials of building of second-hand building materials? What is the elements that should be changed in priority, of the element that has a bigger impact, and where you have to let's say to use the leverage they have to use now to accelerate the use rate?
But I think that having objective in the project, either to reclaim or to reuse elements in a project. So fixing objective, I think it's a good way. Like also public, big public projects. If just one project like that has an order for thousands of square meters of reclaimed tile, it's directly has a big impact. So I think that fixing this objective is a good way to do that. But it's important to know that having a quantitative target, it's really not the only possibility. So that's something that we really insist on in the different document is having this quantitative objective is one way, but you could also have a qualitative objective or more generic objective to say we will try to make the most reuse possible in the project, but you don't start with expressing with a number, because it's a kind of tricky things to do this number, and then maybe you will be frustrated because you will not reach it because it was not well set. So there are also ways more qualitative to do. Okay, I want that in the demolition or renovation project that the contractors make the best effort to reclaim the element that have a potential for reuse. And then there are ways that he can prove that he did the best effort, but that doesn't imply the fact to put a number on this. But I think, yeah, if it's kind of big project start to implement that, it could also start low, just to say, okay, all the floors of the building, if it's a building with 1,000 square meters, it will already have a big impact, and also it will have an impact on the reuse dealers that will receive big orders that are maybe bigger than they are used to, and so they will also change the way of working to adapt to these new demands. But for that, if you want them to have a bigger stock, you have to also have projects that precise that you need to reclaim elements in the buildings, because if not, they will be out of stock quickly. So yeah, I think it's a good way to start.
Thank you.
Okay, but thank you. We are out of time. It's 1 o'clock. So thank you, Gaspard, for the presentation. Thank you to all the participants and for the lively discussion exchange that we have had. That's also the aim of this meet and learn. It's to have time for exchange, discussion, question and answers. And I think that's once again we succeed on this. Thank you as well to the team of Amsterdam, Syed, Jamila, I have seen. Maybe others are missing. Thank you for all the coordination of this meet and learn activity and all the activities. Thank you to Pietro too. And then, so the next meet and learn will be in 1 month's time, on the 24th of November, 2023, same time, same place. You will get more further information about the speakers and the topic on the website of the Sure Your Delta net webpage, and also you will receive the information also by email. So thank you very much, and have a good afternoon, good lunch.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.